Hello, 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 and welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is your host for today, Ambassador Victoria Suba, and I bring you greetings from the Kingdom Spain. Hola, hola a todos los hispanoparlantes que estáis conectados en este día de hoy. Buenas tardes, buenos días o buenas noches, dependiendo desde donde nos estéis viendo. Well, today we have a beautiful, beautiful show prepared for you, and it's going to be really a conversation. And before I proceed with anything, let me tell you who we are. MBNK News TV. We are a platform designed to empower people from all walks of life with time-tested principles for the kingdom living effectively. And we love to contrast worldly facts with kingdom truth, the original truth. And please do tell us where you're tuning in from so that we can say hello to you. I can see that we've got Ambassador Veronique Lawson. Hello, Ambassador Veronique. How are you? All the way from Savannah, Georgia. Welcome, 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 welcome. Right. And now, for a change, I'm going to give the floor to the guests so that they can introduce themselves. And these two couples are a very dynamic couple, and they are none other than ambassadors Ken and Lori McKinstry and Eric and Heather Allen. Welcome.
Hello.
Okay, hello, Ambassador Ken and Lori. Hello, Ambassador Heather and Eric. How are you today?
We're great.
That's fine.
Okay. So I'm going to give the floor. Let us begin with Ambassadors Ken and Lori, and then we'll follow by Ambassadors Eric and Heather. The floor is yours, Ambassadors Ken and Lori.
Okay, thank you very much, Ambassador Victoria, for giving us the opportunity to be here today. Just a brief background about Lori and ourselves, or myself. We've been married for 9 years.
10 in June.
Be 10 in June, and looking forward to that. We have been actively involved with Kingdom Church, the Ecclesia. It's something that we really truly enjoy, and hope that we can bring forth what it is that makes family life in the kingdom make sense and enjoyable. So we do have a couple of grandchildren, and so they keep us busy. And so I think that's about it. Lori, do you have anything else?
Well, we're both recently,
Retired?
we don't like to say retired from our current jobs, and we're looking quite forward to our kingdom purpose, serving God's abilities to, the ecclesia. I'm so sorry.
Assignment.
Yes, fulfilling our assignment in the kingdom for the upcoming generations.
So with that, we'll turn it back to Ambassador Victoria.
Thank you so very much. Thank you for that. You're doing great. You're both doing great. And now we're gonna give the floor to Ambassadors Eric and Heather.
Thank you, Ambassador Victoria. We are so happy to be here. We are from Minnesota in the USA. We have known each other now for 10 years, been married for 8, almost 9 in July. We have a 7-year-old son. I am a nurse coach and own a business called Life is Design that supports vulnerable adults to be able to live in their own apartments, as well as one-on-one coaching for health, wealth, and lifestyle change in people's lives. Eric is a
Yeah, I'm a mechanic or a technician, and I am also a musician and lead worship. And
we've actually been leading worship since we've met together.
Yep.
Both of us have been involved in worship since our teenage years, And it's super awesome that God was able to bring us together and lead worship as well, music worship ministry, because you don't see too many husband wives teams to do that. Let's see, anything else about us? I think that's about it.
Yeah.
So back to you, Ambassador Victoria.
Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much. Before we continue, let me just say hello to a few people that I have seen today in the house. We've got Sabina Rupchan. Hello, Sabina. How are you? She's one of our friends from the Ecclesia group. And we also got our very own ambassador, George Abrahams, all the way from Germany. He's part of MBNK News TV, and he's just supporting us as well. Hello, George, King George. How are you? Right. Let us continue then with the topic of today, marriage. What is it all about? Or what does it require? We know that marriage is God's idea. Marriage is the first institution that he created. Oh, hello, Martha. How are you as well? We've got Martha all the way from the Ecclesia group as well. She lives in I believe it's Suriname. Yes. Hello, all the way. Hello, Martha. So as I was saying, marriage is God's idea. And in God's encyclopedia, God created very clearly two distinct genders, male and female, or man and woman. I don't remember ever reading in our constitution that God sat down and said, let me create a homosexual. Oh, no, let me create a lesbian. No, let's go for bisexual. No, let's go for binary. Let's go for... I've never read that anywhere. So where all these genders came from? Where did they came from? And that is only an illusion that has been created by you know who. It's an illusion, and it really creates confusion, especially to a younger generation. So today at MBNK News TV, we try to set the record straight, because at MBNK News TV, we always like to contrast worldly facts with kingdom truth, like I said before. So with this having said and done, I'm going to hand over now the floor to Ambassadors Ken and Lori McKinstry. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you again, Ambassador Victoria. I'll just start out and kind of continue where you were talking about how the main purpose of marriage and that really is, and that's really is to reveal the nature of God to the world and to our children. Otherwise, they will never know of God if we don't make that part of their everyday life. And the devil hates that. He just truly hates that. And so what we want to do is he wants to actually to show God as being someone who is cruel, evil, angry, judgmental, a lot of other negative labels applied to him. The easiest way to attack that is by him is to attack the family, which is husband and wife, and any offspring that they may have. So it's extremely important that we keep the family structure alive and well in the kingdom. Lori, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. The only thing I might be able to add about, the whole spirit of the enemy regarding marriage, family, and gender would be it's an elevation of and a deception of our moral failings, in society. I worked in an institution, a medical institution, and I had exposure to many, different genders of people. And I had prayed about it, and because they were nice people and everything, but I'm like, Lord, what's the deal with this? And he basically told me, like the gay, lesbian, transgender, he said it's just another moral failing, that has to be dealt with. And the devil has hijacked this whole area and elevated it to a position of, like power. And we have to reestablish what God has deemed credible in His Word concerning this matter. And because it causes a lot of confusion with the children. The schools are hijacking our children, doing things behind parents' back, eroding um, their influence on the children. And, God wants us to retake over this territory for the kingdom. And I think it's a very, very important area right now for us to address.
I agree.
Back to you.
Okay, that was a little bit. You caught me off guard. Anyway, we're gonna pass over to Ambassadors Eric and Heather.
Thank you. Good to see everybody again. We just kind of want to share a little bit of our story and kind of how we came to meet and kind of what our journey has been. I'll just start and Eric will jump in. When I was a child, I've always been praying for my husband. When I was, I'll say, what do you want to be when you grow up? It was, I want to be a wife and I want to be a mom. And the Lord gave me a gift that the weight of my ring finger, I would feel the weight of a ring on my finger when I knew my husband needed my prayers, even before I even knew him. So I've been praying for Eric since I've been about 10 years old, not knowing who he was, not who his personality was or anything like that. But anytime I felt the weight of a ring finger on my wedding ring, or the wedding ring on my ring finger, I would pray for him, just not knowing what to pray for, but just knowing that he needed my support. And then I thought I had it all planned out. I was gonna graduate from high school, meet my man. We'd have 2 kids by the time I was 30, and we'd be having this great life with a picket fence, maybe a dog and a cat, who knows? And it did not turn out that way. 20s came, 30s came and went. And finally, I was like, Lord, I wasn't planning on being a career woman. I am a registered nurse and served the community with that. And but I kept pursuing God, and I said, you know what, Lord, I'm going to be ready. I'm going to be ready for you. And so I would study marriage. I would study parenting. I'd say, Lord, I'm just work on myself so I can be ready when you call me into marriage. And there came a point where I felt that, you know what, maybe I heard God wrong. Maybe I wasn't supposed to be married. Maybe he was calling me to be single. And I had to grieve the dream that I had set up in my head about marriage and be content with having Jesus as my husband and really work it. And I did that. I found it. And then I had the pressure of family and friends. My friends were getting married, their kids were growing up, they're starting to graduate from high school, and they'd be like, well, when are you going to get married? You're such a good catch. You should get married. And the Lord gave me a phrase. I have to find the man who's going to make being married to him better than being single. And so that was kind of how it worked out. And I was happy with that.
And in that, I think we both had that same experience of just getting past to where, okay, Lord, I'm good with you. I'm good with whatever you have for me. As we see our past, we had crossed paths many times in our past. We didn't know each other, and but we weren't ready for each other. God needed to prepare both of us to this. So.
Yeah, if we had met when we were teenagers or young 20s, we would have been oil and water, and totally repelled against each other.
Yeah.
The Lord, I was kind of a follower of the rule, speed limit's 55, go 55. Eric
Yep.
was a
I
racer.
was an outlaw.
No, literally, he raced motorcycles. And so the Lord, and that's just a little sample of just how different we were when the Lord just kind of balanced ourselves out so we could blend better. And then my best friend heard a word from God and said, you know what, I think the Lord's telling me that I need to introduce Eric. And so he was on the worship team of the church that she was at. And
I will say, just going back at this time is when I said, okay, I'm fine, Lord, with you. I don't, I don't need marriage. And, and was just, I had gotten to that point, and it really felt like the Lord needed me there.
And so, the worship leader and my best friend talked about it, and my friend gave the worship leader my number, and she gave it to Eric, and kept bugging Eric to see if he had called me.
I was like, no, I'm done. No.
And
but I knew it was the Lord.
Yeah.
I knew that.
Yeah, and then we did connect and had our first date. And it was a really long. We knew
It
that
was a 4-hour
4-hour
meeting,
lunch
yeah.
going into dinner. And actually, we met at church.
Yeah.
I walked in the front door, and Eric's mom was the greeter. And she's like, oh, "You're Heather." I'm like, "Oh, hi. Come sit with us." I'm like, "No, that's okay. I don't know you yet." But I love her, and she's a great mom. And the Lord just brought us together. I accidentally, unintentionally asked Eric to marry me. My sister lives in Norway, and she comes back to the U.S. Once a year. And that specific year that we met, she was planning to go to Disney World with my mom and dad and my brother and his kids. And so I turned to Eric and I was like, my sister's got to buy some tickets. She needs to know if she's going to come home in February to go to the Disney World, or if we're going to get married, and she needs to come and reschedule the Disney World trip.
That's funny.
And Eric's like,
and at that point, I knew God had brought us together, and I knew that was His plan. So,
but I was just
being
funny. I was just being, planning and being, I was just doing things the way I do it. I wasn't thinking about the romance part of it. But I do have to say, he did come up with a very, very great proposal. That's wonderful and very memorable. But the Lord has been guiding us.
It's been fun. Since then, He has just been guiding us. He gave us this house that we're in and led us to a place we didn't have on the radar. And just He's been working through this whole time. It's awesome. It's amazing to let Him work in that. And, I think I think in this, it's growing both of us more than we would have ever grown being single, and it's just, I think that is the testimony of marriage is growing that together and letting God just build in us what He has, and to bring us together. I think important thing to say is that we married later in our lives, and we both had a lot of experiences in the past, and just to watch God bring those together and just bring us together in that. There's a lot of differences between us and our strengths, and it's fun to see that all brought together, and He's still doing that.
Yeah. Marriage is work. Yeah. I mean, it is. And one thing that I really realize, one of I love Ambassador Victoria, how you said we world facts and kingdom truths. Yes. I haven't heard that before, and I thought that was really cool. But one of the things that is kind of a myth of the world is that marriage should make you happy. And I would tend to say that marriage makes you holy.
Whole, yeah.
Whole and holy.
Yeah.
I couldn't be as complete as I am without Eric, because in the friction and in the safe place, there is friction as we're coming together. And we say iron sharpens iron, but there's a lot of shavings that happen when iron sharpens iron. And there's heat and there's friction and there's tears,
Yeah.
you know, and there's.
But you're right on saying that's in the safety of the marriage, you know, and of our commitment to each other and to God, and you know,
For us, it was really important when we did the unity symbol in marriage. We chose the 3-strand because it's him and I and God in order to make it work. I can't make marriage work without God. We can't make marriage work without God. There's times when we want to give up, but we've made a promise to God. We made a promise to each other, and it's in that commitment and knowing that even in that moment, you know, I might be weak at that point, but Eric may be strong. Eric might be weak in a moment, but
and God has shown us that, you know, through our growing, through where we serve Christ, and in that, you know, he'll show something to Heather, and she has to share it with me, and I have to find witness of that, and vice versa. And God is really, I think he's tuning his voice between us, and
it's and I think that's, in order for those hard things to happen, you have to have that security and that safety of a covenant. You know, it's not a contract. It's a covenant that's not to be broken, and it's God's seal on us, and him that brings us and makes sure that it's not our strength, it's not our righteousness, it's his righteousness and him working through us to really help us become all that he's designed us to be. And it's been interesting because we were, when I was asking God to kind of give me, I like pictures to be able to explain things. And so when I asked him for a picture for marriage, he gave me a red string and a purple string, or a red string and a blue string. And he goes, in marriage, those, you get twisted together, you know, but the red string is still the red string. The blue string is still the blue string. You look at it from a distance, it's purple. And if you look at it close, as more and more time is spent together, the red is rubbing off on the blue and the blue is rubbing off on the red. And so in that, there's even a little bit of purple of a new thing that's happening. And I think that was a really, because I had seen so many times my girlfriends lose their identity when they become married. I'd see them, you know, as this person and have these dreams and goals, and then they found this man and that completely disappeared and they became somebody else. And I was like, God, that's not your plan. That's not what you want. And so please help me understand what you truly want with that, as we give and take and work together. And so that was really a nice picture that he gave me. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
No, I think
okay. I think that's all that we have for today. Back to you, Ambassador Victoria.
Okay, we can go now. No, I was just making a joke. Now, what I heard from you is the analogy that you just gave is absolutely beautiful, Ambassador Heather. The 2 ribbons, the red and the blue, and when you take them far away, you see the purple, but when you bring them together closer to your eyes, you can see, you know, the rubbing off of each other's color, and that's absolutely beautiful. And another thing that struck me is what you said is that you cannot make marriage work without God. And I want you all of you, to keep this statement in mind for later on. Now, I believe that Ambassadors Ken and Lori are ready, so I'm going to hand over to them. Let us hear their story as well. The floor is yours.
First of all, I apologize. I thought you wanted me to answer the question earlier. So, do you want to give your side first? Well, you tell them how you're there.
Okay, well, I'm sorry. I'll just start out. I was previously married my early 20s, 24 years old, and lasted for, like I say, 35 years. I have two children, which are adults now, 44 and 38, and they both have grandsons, so we have grandchildren. Um, but during that time frame, between the time that I was married through the time I was divorced, I really didn't have God in my life, and that was, and I look now and studying all of the things that I have in the kingdom material, and knowing what there is about how important certain things are um, to keeping marriage. That is, you have to have basically someone with you that wants to um, stay together with you, and also to okay. I'm sorry. I'm just looking at something I wrote down here. Work together for basically for unity, and to achieve something that in their life, nothing will be impossible for us if we stick together. So as I met Lori at the age of 59, yeah, I was basically given a second chance. And the way I look at it, the Lord gave me put someone in my path that introduced me to Him, to Jesus, and we began going down a road together, and we were able to. For myself, I was able to give myself to the Lord, become baptized, um, take many courses and seminars, and Lori and I together multiple times going to church a week and serving as needed. So it takes a commitment. Marriage it takes commitment. You need to be patient. There are a lot of adjectives that you can use that will kind of apply to a good marriage. And then obviously there's some things that the same way that will try to destroy it, unfortunately. So we have to understand the differences, in my opinion, and just keep working together on those things that are going to benefit the kingdom and ourselves. Lori, you have anything?
Yeah, as he's said, we came from two totally diverse backgrounds. He was a committed husband for how many years?
35.
35 years, two children, wife, and I was single up until I met him at 58. A lot of different relationships, experiences, strong, a Christian, since 1980. So I had a pretty solid background with the Lord and had always prayed for a husband. I always wanted someone I could work with, achieve goals with, and which it just never happened. But I could say I was never lonely. I always had many people in my life that contributed to my life, and I think we all need to be open to that. Like there's many Christian women, they don't even want to associate with anyone until they get married, and I don't think that's a wise decision. You learn from every relationship you have, long as you can keep it within the confines of the Lord's ways. So I was living alone in my home condo, and all of a sudden this cute gray-haired guy moved in next door to me. So I really believe that the Lord, it's a term called propinquity. People are strategically placed for you, and I really believe that the Lord put Ken there. His boss introduced us, and so we just started. Ken helped me with a few things around the house, and I had him over for lunch, and we went for walks and such. And but it initiated where I had this Christmas cactus. It never bloomed. And that November it bloomed, and I'm like, oh wow, something great's going to happen to me this Christmas. And consequently, in that season, I did meet Ken. So we had gone for walks, and it's funny, Heather, because I did the same thing you did. We were getting closer, and I had that I knew that I knew that I knew. And I had always prayed that I would get that assurance because I had waited so long and I didn't want to make any mistakes. And I know people had experienced that knowing where you just know and you just don't doubt. And the Lord did grant that to me. And I just knew I was going to marry him because he had such good morals and values, and he was kind and sweet. And I was kind of the opposite. um, and and so we were out walking one day, and I turned to him and I said, you know, I could marry you tomorrow if I could. And I was like, oops, the man is supposed to say that. So the same thing happened to me, Heather, as far as that is concerned. And then
I knew God that, like I said before, put Lori in my path for a reason. We could just tell together.
Yeah, it was Valentine's Day, and he said, well, I was going to ask you to marry me on Valentine's Day, but I'm like, no, not Valentine's Day, which that was one of the questions. But shortly thereafter, we did get engaged. How many months?
March. Next month.
The next month of March. But we had known each other for about a year.
Less than
yeah. Now, Ken, you're not supposed to be unequally yoked or marry an unbeliever, but I just knew I was supposed to marry him. And truthfully, I didn't force my Christianity on him. He knew I was a Christian. He knew where I stood. And when he started going to church, it was a New Year's Eve service one time, and he just turned to me and he said, you know, I'm going to do this. And so I have to do this. So he made the decision on his own. And the thing about Ken too is he doesn't have much baggage. So the Lord, his spirit was so easily downloadable that, and I realize that, like most of us that have a lot of baggage in our lives, the Lord has to get rid of it. We have to unload it. We have to go to therapy. We have to learn new ways of doing things. But there's some people, and it might take years for us to get to a certain point in our Christian walk. But with him, it was totally downloadable. It like just went, so he quickly grasped, all the Christian concepts, understood, the Bible instantly. And so God accelerated him for me. It maybe slowed me down a little. So then we got married. And we got married in Nevis. So are we Caribbean? West Indies.
West Indies, yeah.
And that was the beginning of our love story. We've had many instances where God has assured us that it was the right thing. Just supernatural things and assurances. And those are the things too that you hang on to in the tough times, knowing that if you look back to that, it's like, oh yes, God put his stamp on this. God arranged this. God did this for us. God assured us of this. So when you're having those tough times and you think you want to go find somebody else, which we didn't, but God, you always know that your love is built on that rock of the Lord. And actually in our marriage, we got married. One of our photos is a picture of this gigunda rock on the island. And we always look to that as a reminder that God is the rock of our love. So is that it? Or?
I think that's about it.
Yeah, that's probably basically it.
Back to you, Ambassador Victoria.
What a beautiful story, both of you. And I was just telling, as you were speaking, I was just telling the Father, Abba, thank you so much. What are the odds that these two couples are sharing the stories and they are so similar in the way Not only that the girls propose them ahead of in the kingdom, but there's always a first. but how the husbands replied as well. It was exactly the same thing. My goodness, God is so timing, and I'm just in awe. I'm truly in awe. And continuing with this, I want to share a video that when I first, as I was doing research for this show, I was saying, Holy Spirit, I need something, I don't have anything. And the days were going and nothing was happening. I did research, I looked here and there. And then one day, all of a sudden, about a few days ago, all of a sudden, as just browsing, I just saw the video and I was like, oh my God, I need to show this on the show. So before we release the video, I need to put a disclaimer. MBNK News TV does not own the copyright of this video that you're going to see. The purpose of showing this video are solely and exclusively for education, research, and transformative thinking of the audience viewing it. So with this having said, moderator, if you could please roll the video.
Show you something. This is the Hebrew word ish, which means man, husband. This is the Hebrew word isha, which means woman, wife. Now you can see that men and women are a lot alike, but that we are also distinctly different. But what's interesting is what makes us distinctly different, these two letters spell the word God in Hebrew, the short form. Because the Bible says that God made us in his image and likeness, and when he created us male and female. And in a marriage relationship between a man and a woman, there is no stronger bond than when God is present. But what if I told you that if you were to remove God from that relationship, these two letters spell a Hebrew word. Which is fire. See, because in Hebrew, when something is doubled, it's the ultimate. And when we take God out of the marriage relationship, it is the ultimate destruction.
Wow.
Wow. It's thought-provoking and it's so true. What are your thoughts before I say mine? Any one of you?
I just think we don't realize, I mean, as God calls us and he guides us through our marriages and just through that, we don't realize everything that God has built into this and all the testimony behind it and just showing who he is, it's awesome, It doesn't surprise me though.
And interesting that God is in the midst of the fire. So if you put God in the fire, then fire that is controlled, fire that is there's lots of great things fire does. The campfire, it heats our home, it cooks our food, so fire with God in it doesn't destroy. And then I think of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They're in the midst of the fire, and there's the fourth one there, and they are not destroyed. And so that is another thing too, that without God there is destruction, but with God there's great things happening. with that fire that is there. And I think there's fire. There's a reason why there's fire and passion that is part of marriage too, and that needs to be there as well.
Yeah. For me, when I saw the video, the first thing that came to, well, now you said something. That's what I said to you, Heather. Hold on to this thought. You said we can't make marriage work without God. Look how God is working. You just released a word, and it just so happens that it was so in tune with this video. I'm amazed. And also, it goes to show the purity of the Hebrew language that is not corrupt, is uncorruptible. Just to give you briefly, I studied a little bit of maritime law in the context of how they're using the language to corrupt the judicial system. And I learned that the English language is the most corrupt system. Language, because you can use one word, and the interpretation of the word could be anything depending on how it's being used. But with the Hebrew, that is not possible. Like this illustration made it. Each word has its own meaning, and every meaning is connected to God. So to me, that was mind blowing. To me, that was off the charts. So, any other? Would you like to say anything, Ambassadors Ken and Lori?
I just would say that we know that God basically created a male and a female, and as you notice, they became they need to become a man and a woman in order for that to work, and that's really that's what has to happen. Men have to grow up and become men as opposed to just males, and females need to become a woman, a wife, and so all of that will work out with God's connection.
Yeah, I just feel that God is the solution to everything in your marriage, especially in particular during conflict. Because if you defer to God, just do what He says. It makes everything perfect because you're not right, He's not right. And if we just defer to Him in every area, because He is in charge and in control, it will just make the marriage go smoother than we ever dreamed or imagined. And as you said earlier, it's the glue that holds us all together.
Yes, that's true. That is so true. Okay, let me just say hello again to a couple of people. And before that, I need to rectify correction. I introduced Martha Martha Reina, a very own dear Martha, as someone from Suriname. My apologies, Martha. I know you're not from Suriname. I know that you are from Belize. And I want to say hello as well to Neo M. And I am very glad that this live stream is being of help to you. I am very, very glad. That's what we are here for at MBNK News TV. Keep watching us, subscribe to our channel, and you will never be disappointed because God will never disappoint you. And now we're going to be moving on to the let me say it, question and answer section. Sometimes my tongue goes funny. But I'm gonna direct this very first question. I'm gonna direct it to the husbands exclusively. Okay. So and what are the key indicators that a man should look for in a potential spouse? And I'm going to hand over this question first to Ambassador Eric and then Ambassador Ken. So Ambassador Eric, what are the key indicators that a man should look for in a potential spouse?
I think one of the most important things is her relationship with Christ. That is so important to be equally yoked in that, and both have that that knowledge and conviction, of what God brings us to, and because he is the one that joins the marriage, and he is the one that brings that together. And so I think that needs to be talked about and prayed about, and I just think that's a very important thing, in that.
Okay, thank you so very much. Ambassador Ken?
Well, I'll piggyback off of that. That was exactly one of the main reasons why you need to look for someone that has God in their life, and first and foremost. And another thing I think that's interesting that people should look for is someone that can perhaps offset the things that you don't do or don't have or don't do it that well, that can complement you, and so that you could make a great team. It's really, to me, it's very important. I know it is with Lori. She's always telling me how it's a team sport, and and we do things together, and for a reason. And then there's things we do separately, but for the purpose of both of us. So I think if you find someone that offsets some of the things and contributes to your well-being, you'll find the right person. And God will be there for sure.
And if I could add something, Ken, that you brought to mind, is that I think I'd earlier in my life look for somebody the same as me and to be similar, and just look for somebody who's just like me. And that's not what God wants. I see that Heather, in every area that I'm weak, she's strong, and that's not the same person, and that's not similar. I realize you want to look for somebody, exactly what Ken said, somebody who fits your weaknesses, and something, because we will grow together in that.
Great advice. Great advice. Wow. I'm listening. Let me ask you another question. And this is for all. This is not just exclusive for anyone in particular. What marriage advice you wish you had gotten before you got married? And this time we're going to start with Ambassadors Ken and Lori, and then it will be Ambassadors Ken and Eric.
One thing that I know for sure. I'm sorry, you're starting with us, correct? Yeah.
No. Please go ahead. I thought that you wanted me to repeat the question, and I was going to repeat the question, but please go ahead.
Oh, okay. One of the things that I know that we really needed before getting married is good financial advice. And I know we took a class on that, and it's really paid off. God has worked in tremendous ways for us to get through everything that we need to get through, and so that was, I think, one of the main things. For sure.
Ambassador Lori, any advice for the ladies?
Well, I would just say, and this probably isn't a problem for many of them, but the purity thing, the waiting, just don't compromise yourself or your values. Learn about how the Lord feels about all that. It's your body is sacred. It's the temple of the Holy Spirit. Learn about how DNA can be transferred, and amongst other things, with the wrong relationships. Learn about soul ties, how that can affect your emotions. So I would just say study up on all that so that and then prepare yourself. Like before I got married, the Lord had to realign my emotional life, restructure some of my thinking, and also, have me pray about the purification of my body, like some of my past sins or whatever. So, but after you do that, he cleanses you, and you're clean and whole and ready. And it's almost like in the Bible how they take the wives are in preparation for their king, with all the incense and myrrh and aloe and all that. He'll do that for you as well, tailored individually for your life. And so, but once you do that, you're ready, and he'll bring that person right on in. So.
Ambassadors Eric and Heather?
I want to say, Eric asked me a question before we got married that has been really helpful for me as far as things. He had been married before, and one of the things that he asked me is, "What do you expect from marriage?" And it made me think about that. And at the time, I was like, I don't know if I have any expectations for marriage. But then once I was in it, I realized I have a ton of expectations of marriage. And I do have just a little story to share with that. When I grew up, my dad always took the garbage out. And it's just a little thing. He saw that the garbage was full and he would take it out. So I came with the expectation that the man takes the garbage out. And so I didn't realize that was an expectation that I had. And so the garbage would be overflowing and I'd be like, well, doesn't he see it? Doesn't he know he's supposed to take the garbage out? I never told Eric that I expected him to take the garbage out. I just had that expectation. And I've come to realize that Eric is, when he loves something and he gets very focused on it and he can see it. But anything outside of those things, he can miss little details like the garbage being full. And he's great. I can just say, hey, can you take the garbage out? And be like, oh, yeah, sure, I'll just do that then. And anything like that. But he might not see that the garbage is out. And so I could have been like, I felt in my heart like, how dare he? Doesn't he know? Doesn't he want to help out with all this stuff? And it wasn't that at all. Those are just all my perceptions based on an unknown expectation that I had. And he doesn't know that I went through all of that to come to the point where, I just say, hey, can you take the garbage out or just do it myself? It's just 10 steps away. And so that was kind of a funny thing that has been really helpful, and a tool that I just want to share with you that I did get from him before I was married. The other thing, I want to piggyback on Ken too. One of the things that is on financial matters. I read a book called Money Personalities, 5 Money Personalities, and realized just like there's love languages and different personality things, there's also different viewpoints and ways that we view money and handle money and things like that. And then we have a dominant and a subdominant. And I realized that I'm a safety saver. I want to have money in the bank for no reason, just there. And I would want to put money away and just have it saved there. And Eric didn't feel the same way. And I was like, well, aren't you a saver? Are you what? And then I come to realize that if he has a goal, he's a much better saver than I am. If he knows that we need this or we're going on a trip, all of a sudden there's money. I'm like, where did that come from? He's like, well, we have something to do. We have something to get, we've got to get there. And so just to come to realize not only the differences that we have, but appreciate the differences and the value that is there. We have very many differences between us. And to learning to not say, why aren't you like me? But to say, wow, that is amazing.
Look at it and value that.
And value it. Yeah. I think that's the tip I would say is when you find that you have differences, don't fight about it. Learn how to appreciate it.
Amen.
That's a very good tip.
So good.
That's a very good. Wow, that really deserves a boom. That's a really good tip that people sometimes take for granted. And I can tell you that it's difficult kick-started, but once you get into it, it's a lot better. But yes, that's a very good. Thank you so very much for that, Ambassador Heather. Right. Okay, let me ask, is there anything else that you want to add before?
I would just like to add to, don't shy away from some of the psychology, books. Learn about personality, different personalities. Learn about the love languages, like she said. Learn about the different financial styles, because you are going to encounter that, in your marriage quite a bit. Like for instance, I'm like you. I I'm like Heather. I expect things to be done. That's a love language. Do the little things that make my life easier, and I'll just love you to pieces.
And she
Ken
does.
and Ken is more affectionate. So I learned when he was annoying me, all I had to do was go give him a kiss. And that made everything better.
Perfect.
So, first I was annoyed, but I'm like, okay, I need a different strategy here. So understanding your personality type, the love languages and the financial viewpoints will really help your
Yeah. As you both of you were, I mean, the four of you, sorry, I say both because there's two couples, but as you were speaking, two books came to my mind. The first one is, three books. The Purpose of a Woman by Dr. Miles Monroe and The Purpose of a Man by Dr. Miles Monroe. Those two books clearly, in those two books, Dr. Miles Monroe really details the 26 differences between a man and a woman that everybody, married and unmarried, should read. I read them. I read them 2 or 3 times now in preparation. So I think it's important because even during your marriage, from time to time, for you to go back to those books to refresh and to see, okay, uh, I know who I am as a female, but how do I relate to him as a man? How do I identify his differences and in the way he is? So those are the first two books, and then the other book that I would recommend to the audience will be the 5 love languages, and for you can Google it on the internet, and basically the book you've got it available and even on YouTube, and you can also take the test because there is a test to find out which are your love languages, and that will help you towards your marriage, like ambassadors Ken and Laurie, you said beautifully, Ambassador Laurie, that you know what are your love languages, and you know what are his love languages, so that and you just put that example as to how to get what you want. All right. So
It's so
let
funny.
me ask you. Yes, yes,
That's
please.
fair, Victoria. Can I just add to that website for is I think it's Gary Chapman of the Five Love.
Yes, Gary Chapman. That's the name. Yes.
He also on that website has 2 more tests that you can take on there that I recently discovered, and one is your style of apology. What kind of works for you as an apology to feel and heard, like somebody's apologized to you. There's different ways that people receive apologies. And then the other one was on anger. You know, what how do you deal with anger? What is anger for, and how to work through that, and what does that look like? So those are a couple more resources that are tied into
Yeah.
what Dr. Chapman has been working on his whole life.
Yes, and this is coming from the from the nurse. We've got a nurse. Thank you so very much for that, Ambassador Heather. Thank you. Right. So I'm going to ask you another question, and this again is for the whole panelists. And what makes your marriage beautiful so far? What was then, and what remains today? So, Ambassadors Eric and Heather, the floor is yours.
What makes our marriage beautiful?
Yeah, so far today. Yeah.
I think one of the big things is what I think it's the coming together, and it's the unexpected struggles that God brings us through. And when we see the end and we see God moving in all that, then we can appreciate what we went through, and just the the knowing, okay, we're going in this, and just knowing, and just God proving Himself, us coming through that, and we just look in fascination of His, just miracle.
Right.
It's amazing.
This seems counterintuitive, but to celebrate the hard,
Yeah.
to realize that it's worth it. It's worth
It's
going through it,
growing us, yeah.
and we're going to
We
grow
can be
individually,
better. Yeah.
and we're going to be better as a couple, and to celebrate those hard opportunities. And at first I wanted to shy away. I came from a conflict avoidant family.
Oh,
Mhm.
And so I wanted to shy away, and I wanted to shut down, and I wanted to, because I was afraid that, um, even though we made that commitment, were we really going to stick to it, or were we going to be destroyed if we brought up conflict? And I have to say that is after almost 9 years of marriage, I am confident that between God, conflict is not going to destroy us. And that
right.
it's actually going to be
And
a
then
tool,
it grows it. We
and it
can
grows us,
celebrate it.
and we
I
can
like that.
celebrate
Yeah.
it.
Yep.
And that we,
Mhm.
even if I still have that reflex of wanting to avoid, to recognize it and then push through it and past it, to engage, um, wisely, understanding where people are, as he is, where I am, as far as tiredness and overwhelmness and things like that, and finding a wise time to push through together. Um, but yes, still engage in that. I think that's, I mean,
Yeah, and then we can look forward to that and say, no, God is doing more in us, and He's going to grow us closer, and it has, and that's been proven.
Yes.
God's proven that, and
Yeah.
and we're just yeah, praise God.
Even today we had conflict that we had to push through before the show, and
Yeah.
and we're not done being developed. We don't have all the answers, but we know who does, and we trust him, and
Yeah.
we'll keep working on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could have fooled me. Yeah.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I'll start. First of all, I never really examined the marriage vows, but those marriage vows, they're sacred. Um, people need to really look those over and take them seriously. I mean, they really say it all. They have in the whole, sickness, health, good times, bad times, till death do you part. And what it's commitment. Commitment is the key. What I love about Ken is he's always he always thinks the best of people. He's not quick to judge. I'm more opinionated, like, and skeptical. And we can always talk, like, about anything, um, at any time, and we're very open eared to each other about what each other has to say. One of our biggest areas was, when you talk about weaknesses, like I'm prone to anxiety, he's prone to a little anger. I don't have that sweet voice girl. I'm more, strong. And I always say, oh, I wish I had a sweet voice. We'd probably get along better. So both of us have to be careful that those two weaknesses don't feed each other, because that's where a lot of our fights come from our tone, the way we talk to each other. So that's something I've been working on myself, is just, you have to start with you instead of pointing out the other person's weaknesses. It's like, okay, what can I do? Because you are committed and you really do love them. So, and we're very quick to go back to normal. Like, we could get in an argument, but it lasts like 5 minutes, like that fire thing. There might be a little flame, but we blow it out right away.
Mhm.
So, and like you said, arguments are a mortal wound, and they can be resolved with God's help, doing it His way. We're still here,
Yeah.
and that's what we love.
I'll just add to that a little bit. Communication is critical. Has been, I think, from the very beginning. Knowing exactly what to say at the right time. We've spent, I can't tell you how many hours sending text messages and emails back and forth to one another when we were first getting to know one another, and we still do it, to this day. Well, I'm retired now, but when I was working, we would constantly, see emails going back and forth from one to the other, and just because we just love each other, and now we can do it right here in our own home. So it's great.
Yeah, and I think just the person accepts you totally as you are.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you don't have to put on any airs, fronts, faults. You don't have to hide. You can be exactly who you are, and they just love you. I mean, quirks and all, and that is so freeing. It's just a wonderful feeling. So we're still here, and we're still working on things, and we will continue until the end.
Back to Ambassador
Yes.
Victoria.
Back to you.
Thank you so very much. That was very insightful from both of you. And from what I gather from what you said is that it's just a teamwork.
Mm-hmm.
What I learned from the Kingdom marriage seminars that I attended from my church, one of the things, the key things that we were taught is that we need to be committed to the institution of marriage. As kingdom citizens, we are committed to the institution of marriage, not to your spouse, not to your wife, not to your husband, but to the institution of marriage. That's key. And that really stuck in my heart. I said, okay. So basically, in a nutshell, through thick, you have to go through anything and everything, because at the end of the day, what you're doing is honoring the institution. So that's my take on this. That's my take on this.
Wisely.
And yes, of course. So, wow, this is being so interesting. Like I said to you earlier, when we were backstage, I'm listening, and I pray that this show is benefiting all of those who are preparing themselves, or they are in the face of preparing themselves for marriage. So, speaking of marriage, the next question: marriage says that marriage is 20% love and 80% knowledge. Do you agree? Yes, no, and why? And this time, I'm just going to leave the open floor. So whomsoever that wants to speak, please go ahead.
80%, 20% love and 80% knowledge. I would probably say sweat and tears in there too. 20% love. Are you talking human love or godlike love? Because I think when we abide in God,
love. When I say love, I'm talking about the romantic love that we understand.
Okay. The attraction and chemistry. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. That's helpful.
I think we came together more on that
the
knowledge and awareness of what God's doing, and the attraction part was there, but we both really were after what God wanted to do and knew us. Yeah.
And I think that the chemistry for us has grown later into it. It wasn't like ooh la la, when we met. It was like, wow, he loves God.
Yeah.
And wow,
and she loves God.
He's got a great relationship, and I really honor that. And then just like we said, our first date was a blind date, and it was 4 hours long. As we just learned to talk to each other. And so, I have more and more chemistry with Eric as we've grown, and I've just come to appreciate more and more who God created him to be. It's so amazing. I don't know if I agree or disagree, but that's kind of my comments on the question.
That is fine. So, Ambassador Ken and Lori?
Well, I'll start. I probably am a little more I'll say 30-70, maybe 40-60, somewhere in that range. But I know how important knowledge is. As I was introduced to God and to Jesus again through meeting Lori, knowing that that it's just there's so much to um, you know, through the knowledge that you acquire regarding this topic, and it's not just the love side or the attraction side. I mean, that's important, but I don't think that it's certainly not overwhelming or anywhere near the let's say the majority side of it.
I don't know. I think maybe I would do the 50-50 because aside from just, natural physical love, you do, when you're a believer in the Lord and the Bible, you do acquire a deeper love within your spirit. So that love, what was I gonna say? That love is what sustains you. Like in the difficult times, maybe you might be, saying bad things under your breath, but then you're like, no, I really love that. I love, So it's that love that the Lord puts in your heart. I guess there's 3 or 4 different types of love, right? So when you have that additional set of love, love sets that God gives you, I think love is very important because it's what maintains, sustains, and enhances the marriage. So plus the knowledge, but I think love does play an important part once you have the right type of love within yourself.
I mean, if you look at 1 Corinthians 13, that's always quoted in wedding ceremonies, that has to be 100%. Love is patient. Love is kind. Does not envy. Does not boast. Is not proud. Doesn't dishonor. Is not self-seeking. Is not easily angered. Keeps no record of wrong. Does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. Always protects. Always trusts. Always hopes. Always perseveres. That's the formula for making marriage work.
Yeah.
And as I look at that, we recently had some marriage coaching just this about 4 months ago, and they read that to us and asked, okay, where is it that you don't, where's your weak area? And for me, it was love is not self-seeking. How much of what I was bringing was I trying to get something out of it too? And so I had to really sit down and realize how much pride that I had in the marriage and really look at that and apologize and really
see ourselves as a whole, as one.
Yeah. Yep. With that. And always protects. Am I always protecting Eric, in every situation? I had to really sit down and think about that. And what does that look like? And so that love, I think, is 100%. And knowledge will be encompassed within that as you are learning each other and growing each other. But if anybody wants a formula for marriage, that's it.
Yeah.
It's a tall order.
I agree.
I know. And you can't do it without God. You
Yep.
can't do it with him because it's his agape God. And as we grow, if you think of marriage as a triangle and God's on top and we are each in the corner, and as we're growing closer and closer to God, we're growing closer and closer to each other, and so I can't do that with my fingers, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's a very good analogy. Thank you so very much for your questions. So now I think that we're beginning to wrap up. And so any final thoughts that you would like to give to our audience? So we're going to start first with Ambassadors Eric and Heather, and then we'll follow with Ambassadors Ken and Lori.
I think there's two things that I would like to share. God said, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength." And then He said, "Love your neighbor as yourself." And in that, there's two loves: loving yourself and loving your neighbor. And it's we are loving ourselves when we're married. We are one, and so loving ourselves as the red ribbon, loving Him as
the red,
as the
the
blue ribbon,
ribbon, yeah,
and loving
yeah.
us as the purple ribbon together is really important. And when we are working on ourselves, and working with God on ourselves, it makes us one better. But then that overflows into our family and our kids, and when we are good, we are able to even then be better parents, um, because we're the first God-like experience that kids have as moms and dads. And um, many people's perception of who God is has been influenced by the parenting and the parents that they have.
Mhm.
And so they have taken what their mother or their father has been to them and assume that that is how God is going to be towards them. And so we have, not only for our own selves and our own health and wellness, but for our kids and our generations afterwards, and a legacy after us. We have
And for it to be a testimony of who God is,
Mhm.
and His true nature, and
Mhm.
that we can exemplify that.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, we're all going to make mistakes, and praise God that the blood covers and there's healing that is there, because we will make mistakes, but thank God that we have that to heal from and overcome and work through. So, yeah.
Amen. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I can piggyback on a little of that. Something we just went through, and me in particular, is learning to love your partner when they're unlovely, whether you're unlovely or they're unlovely. And when you're very frustrated, you want them to change, you want to change yourself. And it's definitely in the Bible, that the Lord wants us to just love each other when we're unlovely, and that's a big one to work on. Also, to have self awareness, because you can't understand another person unless you really understand yourself. So I would encourage people to really get to know yourself, um, before you get involved in marriage, uh, and also learn listening skills. That's something I had to work on. I mean, he would always say, "You're not listening, and you're not listening." And it was true. So listening is very important. Um, and the last thing would probably be, it's never too late. As in our case, I was 58, he was divorced, and divorce is not always, well, in kingdom marriage, it is. They don't agree with divorce, but um, coming from a previous background, sometimes uh, divorce does work in both parties' favors. Uh, Ken is happily married, his ex wife is happily married, and each person did find the right partner. Sometimes that partner is not available because one or the other is in a wrong relationship or preoccupied with some other person. So um, it's never too late, and keep hope, keep healing yourself, and it'll happen when you least expect it. To you, Victoria.
Thank you so very much, Ambassadors Ken, Lori, Ambassadors Eric, and Heather. And we have come to the end of our show today. And with the understanding that marriage is God's idea, marriage is hard work, but it's also fun. And that it doesn't matter, like Ambassador Lori just said, there is hope. Just keep preparing yourself for any man or woman who thinks, where's my husband, where's my wife, is coming. Just keep preparing yourself and work on yourself first, like Ambassador Lori said. And now I'm going to ask you what we ask every week. We would like you to like us on Facebook, to follow us on Twitter, Rumble, YouTube, anything, any social media you can think of, we are there. It is important. If you really want to continue to get the knowledge of the kingdom, remember that at Mamlaka Broadcast Network, this is what we do. We speak about the kingdom, we breathe about the kingdom, we do everything with the kingdom in mind. This is our lifestyle. Be a river and not a reservoir. Share this message. Share it. Do not keep it to yourself. Whatever that you learn is always good for you to pass it on because you might impact the life of someone. And this is it. Thank you so very much for your testimonies, your sharing. And now we're just going to wave our goodbyes to our audience. And until I see you again, I'll see you at the top where the eagles are, and we are eagles. Let us wave and thank you once again. Bye-bye.